the truth, it just wouldn't hit. It wouldn't satisfy us. It would be like dilute and watered down. For us, it only hits, it only gives us maximum value when it's true. Hello. If you're new here, I tend to talk about narcissistic patterns that I've encountered in the hopes that my experience can help others. Narcissists do a lot of damage, and many of them really are aware of much of the damage that they do. But as narcissism tends to be a spectrum, there's a whole swath of unconscious behaviors that they exhibit that do cause harm, that I would say they are unconscious of, because their way of interacting with the world, their mode of being, is so extraordinarily different from that of the average person. One of the ways in particular I wanted to mention was projection. Now, if you've come across narcissists, probably to your great dismay, you may have realized that some of the chaos and confusion that we find ourselves in is because we have been projecting our own value system, our own perceptions, our own ways of looking at the world, our own moral values, our ethics onto the narcissist, and expecting them to operate in a predictable way within that framework. And they don't, because as I've said before, they're not playing the game that we're playing. They're playing a different game with different rules. It has different currency, different values or priorities, I would say, might be a better word. It's based upon all kinds of competition, and it's generally inverted from what you or I might see as the right way to operate within the world. So yes, if you've tried to analyze and understand why the narcissist behaves so strangely, you would have used your own value system, especially when trying to hold them accountable. You would have, whether you did this face to face or not, but in your own mind, you probably would have thought, I was nice to this person, and then they stabbed me in the back. That doesn't make sense. That's wrong. I agree. But you would have been making those assessments based upon your own judgments, not those of the value system of the narcissist. Instead of obtaining clarity initially, which is too difficult. If every time that we met somebody or interacted with somebody, we had to get a whole rundown on their value system, we couldn't get anything done. So that sort of projection is a natural part of being human. This is sort of like where stereotyping comes in. It's about making the world a bit more predictable for us so that we can make decisions quicker and it not all be so overwhelming. So it's understandable that we would have projected. But I also think that narcissists unconsciously project on us too. And specifically, I wanted to talk about the pretty story, is what I'm going to call it. Because one of the very distressing aspects of the deception, the lies, the betrayal that we feel is perpetrated against us is that we don't know the true story of anything. We never know what really happened. It can be hard for people that haven't experienced this to understand, because generally, if I would say something like that, and it weren't about a narcissist, you would immediately think, okay, so among normal people, maybe one of the people in the relationship has done something that they shouldn't have done, and they've told a story about it, they've told a lie, and now this person can't discern what the truth is, so they can't get closure. And that's a more normal and isolated and contained expression of what I'm talking about. But with a narcissist, it goes so much deeper and further than that. It's ubiquitous, it's pervasive, it's everything. You will ask a narcissist, say they went to buy shopping and they took 20 minutes, and you'll say, did you go straight to the shops and come back? They'll say yes. In fact, they didn't. They took a 2-minute detour to go and pick something else up from somewhere else. And then you'll find out about this, and then you ask and say, I asked you if you went directly to the shops and back. And they'll say, yeah, I did. And you'll say, no, I know you went somewhere else. And they'll say, okay, yeah, but I didn't think it was important because, like, I didn't do anything wrong. That's not the point. The point is that I asked you for what happened. I asked you to relay to me the reality of the situation. And instead of relaying it to me, you gave me a watered down version which lacked nuance. You can understand why some people, without understanding the way narcissists operate, would think that this is a very maybe petty thing to focus in upon. But because narcissists do it constantly, you are unable to find out the truth of anything progressively over time. If every single time the narcissist leaves the house, and every single time you ask them if they went straight to their destination and back, and every single time they say yes, but every single time there is an extra add-on to the journey, then the cumulative effect of that is that you do not know the person that you're interacting with. And when you try and hold narcissists accountable, they cannot understand of their own volition, nor do they really care to, but they will choose not to understand the cumulative negative impact of this. The fact that it creates more uncertainty, more doubt, more distrust that never needed to have been there if they could have just given you direct clarity on the situation. But of course, that would mean them having to give up power over the narrative, which is one of the things that they will live and die for. So, good luck with that. So that's the pretty story. The fact that reality tells one thing, but they will give you a more streamlined, easier, maybe more upbeat, more fun story that you don't want. You ask for the truth, you want it, and you have your reasons for it. Reasons that a narcissist cannot understand because of how far removed they are from reality. And the fact that they operate outside of it 24/7, they don't understand what value it has to us, what meaning it has to us, and the way our systems regulate in relation to being grounded in truth. That's another topic. So we project on them, and then this mechanism I'm talking about with the pretty story is, I think, an area where they unconsciously project on us. Because to a narcissist, they always want the pretty story. And because they always want it, I think genuinely, at least partially, they believe that we do too. And every time that we don't enforce a boundary or we forgive something, they see that as permission to keep telling the pretty story, because surely, like them, wouldn't we want the prettiest story? Of course we don't. This is the problem. We don't. Everyone would like the nicest story, technically. And we will get grumpy if we find that the story is not nice, but we want it anyway. Narcissists don't. If the story makes them feel bad, look bad, or threatens them, they will want a lie. I would surmise, okay, stay with me here. If you were in a party with friends, and this would never happen, but let's just say, and the narcissist started telling all of your friends a really amazing story about you. Now, the story is completely false. It never happened, but it is extremely believable, and it makes you look really good. Like, for example, say you used to do athletics in high school. So you do have some skill and you do have some knowledge of this, and you were good. So they're really only stretching the truth. But say they told a whole story about how you went to an athletics meet now in adulthood. They watched you, you won, there was a medal, everyone respected you. They admired you so much, right? Imagine if they told that whole story, believably, convincingly, to people at a party, and everyone was believing it, and it made you look really good. As a normal person, we still wouldn't want that. We would feel so icky because it would be missing such an important aspect, such a valuable kernel, the truth. It just wouldn't hit. It wouldn't satisfy us. It would be like dilute and watered down. For us, it only hits, it only gives us maximum value when it's true. Then the reward is genuine. And this is why so many of us who are not narcissistic, who are just genuine people, we work hard for things so that we can get the benefit of them. And if someone tells a story about us and they relay and they recount it, and it's absolute truth, then we get the absolute value. We get the absolute value of that recognition in all its glory. And nothing less than that will do. Nothing less than that should do. That's genuine self-respect and pride in good work and adding real value and contribution. And a good person won't allow themselves that kind of reward without having genuinely put in the work. Okay, so that's the first scenario. An average person at a party, their narcissistic partner tells a believable but completely false story about them. The person will not want that at all. I'm sure you'll agree. Now, let's flip it. Let's say that you're at that same party, but with your narcissistic partner who you decide to tell a story about. And you decide to tell as big a tale, as big a lie. This is just a hypothetical, right? As the narcissist told in the last scenario. So you tell the people, oh, the narcissist, he's so, reliable. He's so honest and genuine. And like you do it without sarcasm. And you tell of his exploits and how confident and brilliant he is and the fact that you've never known anyone more selfless. All of this is a lie, right? This is complete and utter lie. And maybe you'll throw in some other outrageous things about the narcissist, but you make it believable. I propose that the narcissist would not object to this, as long as you made it the best, most believable story, such that nobody would think that you're making fun of the narcissist or anything. They really believe it because maybe these people, you've only met them once or twice before, so they don't know any better anyway. The narcissist will wear that, and I'm sure they'll be glowing. And if you could see that that could be true, that they could love the attention of a lie because it's such a pretty lie and it makes them look so good. If you can see that they could like that and accept that, then you can understand how they might project onto us that we too might like a pretty story over recounting reality in all its boringness, difficulty, frustration. I just think that sometimes because their perspective is so warped, so willing to be untethered from the truth, that they think that ours could be too. It doesn't help the society we've grown up in, where appearances are so often valued more than reality, where a lot of the time we have to keep up appearances. And if we don't, we're shamed socially from the smallest thing. The way we socially say, hey, how are you? And you kind of know that you just say, I'm fine, even if you're not fine. And if you choose not to say that and you choose to be a bit more honest, sometimes people just look at you like you're a downer and, oh yeah, it was just a figure of speech. I didn't really want to know how you are. And that's fine, I get that. But this is the system that we've been exposed to and that we've gone along with unknowingly, and to a great degree, very hard not to go along with in these small, insidious ways that pervade so much of our daily life. So yeah, we project onto the narcissist projects onto us. I'm sure this is only one example of how they project onto us, but I thought it was the interesting thought. If you have any additional thoughts, please leave them down in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing. Until next time.